Gentleman yields back. Thank you, Secretary Burgum, for your valuable testimony. We'll now move into questions, and I'll recognize members for 5 minutes, beginning with Ms. Hageman, the subcommittee chair for our Water, Wildlife, and Fisheries Subcommittee. Ms. Hageman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Secretary Burgum, I want to start today by thanking you for your work on the Department of Interior's finalization of its NEPA implementing regulations to make it easier to permit, access, use, hunt, recreate on, develop, and build on our federal lands in the United States. I co-led a letter with Western Caucus Chair Malloy thanking you for your work on these regulations and stressing the importance of permitting reform for our country's economic development and national security. And I also thank you for being an example to other federal agencies and leading the charge on rolling back bureaucratic overreach that is outside congressional intent. Mr. Secretary, your team has been terrific in helping my state of Wyoming have a better energy future with your support of our coal industry. Wyoming has led in coal production since 1986, and we now produce approximately 40% of the coal that is used in the United States. A February report from the Wyoming Energy Authority recently confirmed that after more than a decade without new federal coal leasing, domestic and international demand could outpace supply by 2030, which is a dire situation for this country. We need new coal leases and expanded production to prevent this scenario. And as you know, part of the coal leasing process, BLM must analyze the fair market value of coal to ensure that the citizens are getting a fair return. Our past administrations, most specifically Obama and Biden, who did not support coal leasing, they actually provided a return to taxpayers of zero, as they did everything in their power to destroy our coal industry. What is your team doing to ensure we develop a fair market value of coal that would reflect real market conditions but encourage leasing, as well as rooted in current market realities, so we can lease more coal in Wyoming?
Thank you, Representative. Obviously, having affordable, reliable baseload energy is key to America's future and key to us winning the AI arms race with China. China was mentioned earlier. China added last year 93 gigawatts of coal. They're on track to do a similar amount this year. We know the technology exists in your state, my home state, to produce energy cleanly from coal. That coal also includes critical minerals, some of the highest concentrations of critical minerals that we need that we're now captive to China are in that coal. The co-production of critical minerals and thermal energy is essential to our future. And of course, we're getting back to our basics at the U.S. Geologic Survey, which we say is mapping is the core technology. We have gone through a preliminary assessment and estimated that the coal resources on federal land that belong to the American public are worth $8 trillion. $8 trillion. And so developing those provides return to our taxpayers. It lowers energy cost. We can do it cleanly, and we can help solve the critical minerals. So again, appreciate the support we have from you in the state of Wyoming to ensure that we can not only win the AI arms race, which requires power, but to get out of the stranglehold that China has on virtually the whole world regarding critical minerals.
Well, the fact is that it is difficult to permit and lease coal in Wyoming and elsewhere, and it is a process that needs to be streamlined. I don't know if you are, it's also astronomically expensive, with years and years and years tied up in the permitting before any of our coal mines can actually start producing. The last coal lease was issued in 2014. As I indicated, 2030 is kind of a drop-dead date by which we need to have some of this permitting done. I have introduced a bill that would address the bonus bid process for coal in the state of Wyoming and elsewhere. I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to look at that, but I would really welcome the administration's support for that particular effort to make sure that we can continue to produce coal. But I also want to talk about some other things that you've done. In December of last year, the BLM amended a Biden-era BLM regulation to extend the phase-in date for compliance with the minimum bond amount for statewide oil and gas leases. In fact, what this rule would do is increase the cost of a single lease for bond from $10,000 to $150,000, Any statewide blanket bonds from $25,000 to $500,000, a 1,400% increase. Obviously, this will have an enormous impact. While this rule has been put back until June of 2027, it is still hanging over our heads, and it would have a devastating impact on my independent producers in the state of Wyoming especially. What is the administration or your office doing to attempt to address what was really a horrific rule coming out of the Biden administration, attempting to increase the cost of oil and gas development to the point that it became infeasible?
Well, Representative, you're accurate that the purpose of those was to actually try to drive an industry out of business, an industry that we desperately need, an energy industry. And of course, you mentioned leasing. We do know that every president from Harry Truman, including President Obama, held the quarterly required legally required lease sales all the way through up until the Biden administration, where in the first 2 years they did not hold a single quarterly lease sale as required by law. That went to federal court. And the states prevailed. We're following the lease sales per the law passed even by this Congress with the Working Families Tax Cut, and we're taking a look at those egregious bonding rules that were put in to make sure that we're appropriately protecting the resources of America, but also making sure that we're not adversely penalizing those that are trying to lower prices for Americans for energy.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentlelady's time's expired. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Nevada, Ms. Lee, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary, for being here. Just weeks after you were here last year in June, Interior published its July 15th memo requiring your personal approval on any and all solar and wind permits. This basically created a total permitting mess in my home state of Nevada, stalling 93% of all new energy capacity in our state. This new red tape had gotten so bad that our Republican Governor, Joe Lombardo, ended up having to, what he said, call an audience with the president in an attempt to clean it up. On a December podcast, here's how the governor said his meeting went. Quote, Nevada utilizes solar energy more than any other state in the nation. I walked President Trump through it, and he goes, okay, sounds good. I'm glad you brought it up. I'll call Burgum and tell him it's allowable in Nevada. So my first question is pretty simple, Mr. Secretary. Nevada currently has the third highest unemployment rate in the country. Our governor himself has emphasized that solar, if unleashed, would bring tens of thousands of good-paying jobs and several $1 billion of economic benefits to our state. My question is, did the president keep his promise and personally call you to tell you that solar development is allowable in my home state?
We were following the law required for permitting, and I want to...
It was just a yes or no. Did the president call you based on his conversation with the governor?
President Trump has been clear about the energy dominance agenda that we have, and we're instructed to work on anything that is affordable, reliable, and secure, and that we're following the law in terms of the permitting to get that done. We know that there are projects moving forward, but one thing to clarify, your opening statement said that I personally have to it. It actually says that the Secretary's office includes all the administrative staff, not just a local district office.
Okay,
or not
can
a state
I reclaim
office.
my time? Since for the past year, in my home state, there have been 0 permits issued on solar. And with respect to following the law, the fact of the matter is a judge actually struck down the July 15th memo last month. So regardless of whether or not you agree with the court order, I guess my question is, what's the immediate impact that that's having? Are you just not going to abide by the court order?
Well, we had you're referring to a single district judge that felt that he had the authority to tell a federal...
So are you appealing it?
Yeah, absolutely, because we reject the whole premise. I mean, the idea that a single judge could decide what the process that we're supposed to go through internally to make sure that we're complying with the law through a complex permitting process. is absurd, and I think that you would object to a single judge telling this committee how to run the committee. I mean, we have 3 separate equal branches of government that each have their own responsibilities, and ours is to execute on the permitting responsibilities that we have.
So with respect to that, I want to get back to your assertion that you're looking at all affordable types of energy. According to Lazard, the world's largest independent investment bank, when faced with a choice of what kind of new power sources to build, wind and solar are the clear cheapest choice when accounting for capital, fuel, operations, and maintenance costs. That's true even without the federal wind and solar subsidies that Republicans and the president have unwound in the GOP budget that passed in July. So my point is this. As you said, we are in an arms race, an AI arms race. In Nevada, our own governor has contended, it is a fact, that solar energy, 93% of our new capacity of energy in our state is on hold. And my only request is, based on what we understand the conversation to have been between the governor and the president, that solar development be allowable in our state. I mean, you're a businessman. To have projects and billions of dollars of investment literally be stalled in their tracks in a form of energy. And I have always been a contender that we should look at all forms of energy. But in my home state of Nevada, solar energy is the predominant, clearest choice when you look at new capacity of cheap energy coming online. And my only request of you and your department, whoever it is in your department that will make the decision, that we look at these and start to pass these permits along so we can get this development processed. And by the way, I'll just say this. When you're looking at permitting reform, the single thing that prevents it from happening is this memo, this July 15th memo that is stalling. If you would just rescind that memo, we could get permitting reform past this Congress, and we can start to talk about permitting all forms of energy. So I just ask, Mr. Secretary, that we work on making sure we can move solar development along. Thank you, and I yield.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The chair now recognizes.
Mr. Chairman, could I respond quickly on one thing? The Lazard analysis that suggests that this is the cheapest form of energy, all of these projects you're describing in Nevada have one thing in common. When the sun goes down, they produce zero electricity. And this nation over-rotated towards intermittent forms of energy. And the idea that we could add intermittent and shut down baseload is what put our grid at deep risk. And the idea that it's the cheapest, if you want to add intermittent, you have to keep everything else. And so we have to have a discussion about the total cost of grid, not the cost of the incremental, because it's true on an incremental basis. You may have an incremental source, but it doesn't work. The whole machine doesn't work when the sun goes down, and there's examples from around the world of this happening. And so it's cherry picking an analysis that doesn't look. We're looking at reliable, affordable, and secure. And I would encourage everybody here to get in a skiff and to understand that most of these components, very few of these components for the solar industry, are coming from the U.S. They're coming from China, and just like we had with Huawei equipment, there's modifications on those that would allow foreign governments to interfere with our grid. And I just want to have a rational discussion with everybody. This is not an ideological thing. It's about reliable, affordable, and secure. Those three things.
I'm all for rational conversation about it. I'll just say we are not shutting down baseload energy to build solar. And I will contend we have battery storage as well. So
we're going to move on to the next question. The
Mr. Chairman, I request unanimous consent to enter into the record this amazing new technology that apparently the Secretary is unaware of. It's a battery. China's figured it out. That's why they're cleaning our clock on clean energy, but I want to enter that into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Could we also include that China is the world's largest emitter as part of that submission?
And let's include the fact that far more clean energy was created in China last
so
year. The gentleman mentioned their coal. The coal was a fraction of the new energy.
We're going to move on to the next member, or we'll never get through this hearing. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, may I be allowed to ask my questions?
I'm trying to recognize you, Mr. Tiffany.
I see that you're doing that. 93 gigawatts of coal, is that
You
what I
haven't been
heard?
recognized yet, Mr. Tiffany.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Said you haven't been recognized yet. But the chairman of the subcommittee on federal lands, the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Tiffany, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you for keeping order, Mr. Chairman. 93 gigawatts of coal, is that what I heard in China?
Yes, just in 1 year.
Yeah, so the witnesses stated it very well. Do you know how much the subsidies are that we pay for these intermittent sources of power? $50,000 an acre. We are destroying some of the most productive farmland in America as we speak, including in places like the great state of Wisconsin. And guess what's happened to the great state of Wisconsin and their utility rates since then? We went from the second lowest in the Midwest to the second highest. And that's because of this movement towards intermittent sources of power. When the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, you do not get power from it. And you have to keep the base load power. You have to, unless you want to be like Germany and fall behind the rest of the world, you cannot decommission all that you have. Real quickly, in regards to U.S. Wildland Fire Service, I'm looking at the budget and the numbers we have here that were provided to us. It appears there's a significant increase. Is that correct, Mr. Secretary, in regards to the U.S. Wildland Fire budget?
Yes, through the unification of the existing groups across BLM, BIA, and National Park Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, those four, plus the U.S. Forest Service is included in this budget, also being included in that thing. So it's a transfer from the USDA budget as well.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the Secretary for presiding over that, because what is the one thing that we've been hearing as we've traveled around the West is that there are all these silos that have been out there, and they did not coordinate amongst themselves to fight these fires. And stopping the scourge of fire in the West is probably the greatest challenge you have, other than producing more energy for America, and I want to thank you for doing that. I want to get on to another issue that's quite different. The Obama administration opened up a loophole in our immigration policy in regards to paroling Chinese nationals in without having to get a visa. The Biden administration codified it. Are you taking action, working with the Department of Homeland Security to shut down that loophole that allows communist Chinese to come into America and then have children here, have babies here, and then they become citizens solely as a result of having birth in a place that is part of America?
Thank you, Representative. Yes, birth tourism is on our radar, and in particular, we've had some issues in our territories that we manage in the Pacific, where China was exploiting low-cost, high-volume tourism visas to flood some of our places like the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas Islands with visitors. And so it's a real thing that we're directly involved in. So thank you for bringing attention to this issue.
And you are taking action, is that correct?
Well, we're working with those that control immigration, certainly.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, something really important that we do. There were more births that were going on in the Mariana Islands by Chinese nationals than there were of Americans. As a result of this loophole, it's important to shut it down. National Park System. Do you believe in public-private partnerships?
Yeah, absolutely.
And tell us some of the actions that you're taking to make that happen.
Well, I'm pleased to say that, again, we've got a number of organizations like the National Park Foundation, which is raising a record amount of dollars. We're excited, would invite all of you to join us around the 4th of July for the opening of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library and Museum. This is a over $450 million project. 100% of that is non-federal money coming from the private sector. It could be a role model for the kinds of things we could do in entrance communities to our 63 national parks.
We should be doing far more of this, shouldn't we? Because there's an enormous wealth in this country that would like to participate, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about EJA real quick here in closing. Equal Access to Justice Act, I'm sure you're familiar with it. Extreme environmental groups have used this to be able to shut down project after project across America, including groups like the Natural Resources Defense Council, and they fundraise off from it. What actions has Interior taken, if any, to try and create better reporting and transparency around that so these extreme environmental groups aren't ripping off the taxpayers of America?
Well, we're certainly working on trying to create the transparency around these organizations that position themselves as somehow conservation groups but don't spend any money at all on conservation. They spend it all on lawsuits. They have high-paid lobbyists and CEOs as their officers. They tell people to be afraid, send us a check, we'll solve the problem. They sue, and under IJA, if they sue, they settle. They get paid, the taxpayer is on the hook for paying their legal fees, and it's become a giant business. I mean, there's a business model of involved in suing over these issues and then turning that into a profit center. And I think Congress should take the steps to make sure that we're not using taxpayer money for groups that are blocking America. We know in this country that we can do two things at the same time. We can build great things and we can protect the environment. This is a false trade-off that's being presented by these organizations, and we shouldn't be funding them with taxpayer dollars.
Who knew these massive environmental groups would be ripping off the taxpayers of America? I yield.
Gentlemen's time's expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Neguse, for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here today. I want to start first with a letter that myself and Senator Michael Bennett of Colorado wrote to your agency on April 29th. This was a letter of April 29th of this year in regards to the historically low snowpack that we're experiencing, as you know, in the Rocky Mountain West, including in Colorado. Obviously, very concerned about the wildfire season that is upon us. The letter makes a number of requests around pre-positioning assets, extending federal contracts for aerial resources. I would just ask for your commitment to respond to that letter, if you might be willing to make that commitment.
Yeah, absolutely, and appreciate your attention to this. We are facing a potentially dangerous situation with the low water levels in the Colorado River Basin relative to wildfire, and that's why, again, we appreciate all the support we can get from you in unifying the new U.S. Wildland Firefighting Group. That's going to allow us to have essentially a joint chiefs of staff that can make the command and control decisions that you're asking us to look at.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And we look forward to your response on that front. I want to follow up on a point that the ranking member referenced. This is in regards to a decision that your agency made last year in December, as you know, removing the 2 federal holidays that honor Black history from the free entrance day list for the National Park Service. You're familiar with that decision?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I believe those 2 days, by the way, are Martin Luther King Day, as you know, and Juneteenth. It's my view that Juneteenth provides all citizens with an opportunity to really recommit ourselves, renew our commitment to equality. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess part of my confusion about why, given your agreement on that front, given the fact that as governor, you proclaimed Juneteenth back in North Dakota several years ago, why you would now allow the agency, or I presume you were involved in that decision, to remove those 2 holidays from the list. It just strikes me that that is not consistent with the view that you just articulated. And I would urge the National Park Service to reverse that decision. I think it is short-sighted, and I don't think it's in the best interest of the country. I recognize my colleagues disagree with me on the other side of the aisle, perhaps some of them, but that's my view. I want to ask you about one last topic.
Can I just say I want to make sure on that
Sure.
topic that we understand that no one is changing these holidays, the holiday designation, whatever. There was an ability to choose free days, and part of that was, where do we space the free days? Where do we put them? Do they match up against weekends?
Yeah, but Mr. Secretary,
and again, trying to get more of those days into the summer months when we have higher visitation.
I hear you. At the same time, I think you could understand how many Americans would perceive a decision by your department to remove Martin Luther King Day as a free entrance day, the National Park Service. I just, at the end of the day, again, we'll have to agree to disagree on that front, but I will move on. Are you familiar with Atlantic Industrial Coatings?
I'm not familiar with that.
So Atlantic Industrial Coatings is a company. Are you familiar with that company?
You're saying Atlantic?
Atlantic Industrial Coatings, correct? Are you familiar with it? Or
I'm not familiar with Atlantic.
okay, Atlantic Industrial Coatings is the company that received a no-bid federal contract for the project at the Lincoln Memorial Reflective Pool. Are you familiar with that now?
I'm familiar with that project, yes.
But not the company.
I wasn't familiar with that specific name of the company.
Okay. You're familiar with the fact that a company received a no-bid contract to do the work on that project, correct?
I'm familiar that we're working on a project to restore the reflecting pool before the summer season with record attendance, yes.
Yes, and that was through a no-bid $13 million contract, right? That's not up for debate. That's a fact.
I'm positive that we followed all of the required bidding rules. So you're emphasizing the word no bid like something nefarious has happened.
Okay, then
I reject
explain
that
it to me.
thesis.
Here, I'll ask you the question. My understanding of the federal procurement rules is that a no-bid contract is reserved for situations where, quote, any delay would cause serious injury to the government. What is your proposition is what? That there'd be serious injury to the government if this company didn't get the $13 million contract to do this particular project right now? Is that
Well, I think we do have a sense of urgency. I mean, we got handed a record amount of deferred maintenance. We had 19 fountains across the city that didn't work.
That's the
82 homeless
serious
sites,
injury to the government? The serious injury to the government?
Well, I suppose a lawyer could decide that, but I think that maybe all of us could agree that we would want to have our nation's capital looking great for the 250th. I mean, this is a common sense decision.
I would say, just last question, who picked this company? Because President Trump, a few months ago, in a New York Times article said, I have a guy who's unbelievable at doing swimming pools. He looked at it, he called me up, he said, sir, we can do something on it. Last night, he posted on Truth Social, also, I did not give out the contract, Interior did, to a contractor I did not know and have never used before. So Interior, he's talking about you. Did you give this $13 million no-bid contract to this company that's never done business with the federal government before?
The gentleman's time has expired.
I think the Secretary can answer the question.
The gentleman that you're talking about that has done construction work regarding pools and fountains for President Trump is not part of this contract. He's just a citizen that cared about it and offered some free advice. There's nothing there in terms of any dollars flowing to anybody that worked for President Trump.
Who picked this company? That's what I'm getting at.
The National Park Service and the leaders on the National Mall are the ones that picked it. They went through the process, picked the person that was best, and part of their selection process was picking somebody who had the capability to complete the project in a time frame and in a budget that would actually fix the problem. I mean, there are past presidents that have worked on this thing. It's been shut for 2 years. Read the article. There was $38 million spent on this between 2010 and 2012, and it was never fixed. I mean, this is
we're going to move on, and some of these questions, if you want to refer or answer them in writing when there's more time, that would be fine. But we're going to move to the gentleman from Minnesota, the chairman of the Subcommittee on Energy and Mineral Resources. Mr. Stauber, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Secretary Burgum, thank you very much for being here. In November 2020, the first Trump administration finalized a rule to delist the gray wolf under the Endangered Species Act. As is often the case, the rule was quickly litigated by activist groups. For the past 5.5 years, this rule has been stuck in the courts, as both the Biden administration and the current Trump administration have defended it. According to data from the Fish and Wildlife Service and state wildlife agencies, over half of the gray wolves present in the lower 48 can be found in the district I am proud to represent, Minnesota's 8th Congressional District. Our inability to properly manage gray wolf is an issue for my constituents, and they face that every day. Secretary Burgum, can you confirm that the Trump administration still holds the position that the gray wolf should be delisted under the ESA?
Yes.
And so to confirm,
but I want to say again, as you know, we got gray wolves, we got Mexican wolves, we've got some places where they've been downlisted versus delisted. I mean, it's a complex situation, but I guess what I'm agreeing with is that we do have a wolf management issue, and we're actively engaged in trying to resolve this and find the right balance.
So confirming, defending the November 2020 delisting rule is still the administration's strategy?
I would say Yes, but we're also taking a look at downlisting as well, because in some cases the delisting could actually make things worse than just downlisting. And so we're taking a look at how we can achieve the goals of better wolf management.
Okay. Does the department have any additional tools to delist these wolves and other species administratively, or must Congress step in to help you?
We're going to do everything we can administratively within the rules that we have, but certainly would welcome any discussions with Congress to try to come up with a rule, because, again, we have a patchwork state by state right now, and wolves unfortunately don't know where the state lines are.
No. I will tell you that we have to celebrate the success of the ESA, like the gray wolf, and I appreciate your responses. Switching gears to northern Minnesota, we're home to the incredible critical mineral wealth, including the Duluth Complex, the largest untapped copper-nickel deposit in the entire world. And I want to thank you for your recognition of this incredible opportunity we have in northern Minnesota, along with your entire department's work to make responsible critical mineral mining in northern Minnesota a reality. That said, we don't have a complete picture of the full extent of the mineral wealth in the Duluth Complex or other mineral formations around the country, due in part to the lack of data and analysis. In this area, for example, the data we have is largely extracted from the commercial drilling and mapping of proposed projects. But beyond those project areas, what we have is just an estimate, not a full picture. What is the USGS and the department doing to address this?
Well, I agree with you, Representative. And, of course, as I stated in my remarks, we're trying to get USGS back to its core mission of mapping. And, of course, the ability to do better mapping with higher tech, with less intrusion is certainly available. But we're definitely getting that agency focused on its core mission of mapping. There's and it's essential to this larger issue of winning the critical minerals race with China.
It's hugely beneficial to us. So, again, will the department prioritize mapping of the Duluth Complex and other geological formations in northern Minnesota?
Yes.
Thank you. Before my time is up, I want to turn to your role as chair of the President's National Energy Dominance Council. While I recognize we need an all-of-the-above approach to energy and mineral development, part of which includes working with our allies overseas, Americans enjoy vast energy and mineral wealth here at home in the United States. Many Americans, including those in my district, are frustrated to see the administration run overseas first, while proposed projects continue to languish here in our country. These are projects that will employ American skilled labor and directly benefit from them. Will you commit to prioritizing these domestic energy and mining projects over projects overseas?
Yes, certainly. And we've got some partners like Canada and Australia that are going to be key in helping us revive. We've killed the mining industry in this country. We graduated 36,000 lawyers last year. About 300 students graduated in mining or metallurgical degrees. 30 years ago, the U.S. led the world in critical and rare earth minerals. Now we're completely dependent on the top 20, 85 to 100% on China. So it's not just mining companies; it's also universities. It's also getting back. And again, if people care about the planet, we should do it all here because we do it cleaner, better, safer, smarter than anyone else. We've got an EPA. We do reclamation. Shoving mining to other parts of the world is horrible for the global environment, and it's undermines our national security.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and continue the good work. Thank you.